You've been in Nairobi for a couple of days now, and you're addressing a conference, the whole areas of risk. Of course, we didn't pay to attend your conference, but we wouldn't still mind benefiting from some of the things that you're talking about. So, in a nutshell, what are the issues and the topics that you're addressing in the conference that you're doing with our sister newspaper, Business Daily?
Yes, so our Risk Africa 2011 conference has really taken about 3 or 4 directions. The first one was the most of yesterday, dealt with by Professor Jane Onsongo from the Anti-Corruption Commission, was speaking very much about corruption and the importance of an anti-corruption approach to business and the ways that that could be done, and many experiences that they've come across of organisations that are suffering badly from it. That was followed by Professor Mervyn King from South Africa, author of the King 1, 2 and 3 reports, and he spent a lot of time talking about corporate governance, getting the organisation right in terms of the board, getting the right culture, tone at the top. Then this morning we had Terry Downs, the CEO of Seneca, talking about security risk, followed by my colleague in Kenya, Gilbert Walidi, talking about fraud risk management, and I, as soon as I leave here, talking about enterprise risk management. So we've tried to cover a lot of bases in 2 days, and hopefully that gives our participants a flavour of what risk management is all about.
All right. Let's recently I saw a report by the World Bank that was suggesting that a couple, actually I guess it said many of African companies and even the listed companies had quite a weak corporate governance in terms of all the things, how they follow their policies, their laws, their procedures. And I know I don't know if you have done any global survey, or from your experience in the world, how does Africa compare with the rest of the world in terms of its corporate governance and also risk management?
I guess I come from a privileged country, Australia, in terms of risk management. I am initially English, but I spent 24 years in Australia, and we're quite proud in the sense that I believe Australia globally is in one of the world leaders in risk management, not least because the international standard on risk management, ISO 31000, was actually developed from the Australian-New Zealand 4360 standard, and it was chosen as the best standard. So I think Australia has done incredibly well in risk management, and even in the global financial crisis it performed extremely well. So I come from a very privileged area, and as a firm we've developed within that area, which is very competitive, but hopefully our products and what we do is good. If I then compare it to other countries in the world, and maybe I'll pick just maybe 2, the US and Africa. If we look at the US, they survived, I guess, a lot worse off in the global financial crisis, and when we ask why, I think the main issue a lot of people have spoken about is that the Americans followed a very quantitative approach. They built models, and if the model said jump, they jumped. If the model said don't, they didn't. Problem is, all models are wrong, so they took a maybe less pragmatic approach to risk management. Also, corporate governance was obviously shown up as quite bad in the US in terms of perhaps a greed element and culture. If I can come to Africa, I was here probably 6 or 7 years ago doing a lot of risk training, and it was very young then, and I've now revisited, coming back last year, and I've seen a complete change in the attitude of Africa to risk management, so much so that we've now set up Protect Africa, and we see a huge opportunity here from both sides, for ourselves but also hopefully the value we can add to African business. And I am just actually amazed at the passion that Africa is now showing for risk management in such a short time. I believe there are a lot of practices which we'll all be aware of that are perhaps less than optimal around corruption, fraud, maybe the view of not working towards the collective but of the individual. But I believe that now the attitude of Africa, particularly Kenya, is fantastic in relation to towards risk management and where I think we can go. And I guess the constitutional change last year, I think, has given a lot of impetus to that, and people are feeling that they can actually make a difference now. And I think risk management is a way of helping that difference change.
Is that passion shared by the government, or is it not so much in the private sector, or how is the feeling that within the African governments?
Well, we're working for some government organisations, and certainly the ones we're working with are very passionate about risk management. So my sample size isn't huge, but the ones that I've spoken to are very, very passionate. So if that's anything to go by, and that is a good sample size, then I think you're going absolutely in the right direction, and a lot of great things can be done here, both government and private enterprise.